Let me see if I can get this going real quick. Thanks for indulging me a little bit on your Wednesday morning. Okay, this is just some running slides of my office. Since I am a licensed professional counselor, I can't put any client pictures up here because of confidentiality. So there's no people in these, but just my office. So I am Kelly. I'm a licensed professional counselor and the owner and founder of the Playroom Lubbock. And I'm also an organizer of 1 Million Cups. Anthony Presley is one of the organizers, and when he asked me to be a part of this, I asked, but am I an entrepreneur? I guess I didn't really know what an entrepreneur was, or that I didn't realize that I would be one. But I've come to realize that an entrepreneur delivers a service or a product in a creative way to fulfill a present or future need, desire, or demand. And the demand in my line of work is a resource for families and kids that is child-centered and collaborative. I opened the Playroom Lubbock about 7 months ago, like Taylor said, and it's a collaborative therapy practice for kids. The intent and the vision for it is to provide fully licensed or certified therapists or practitioners that deliver research-based interventions or therapies to promote the well-being of kids, developmentally, emotionally, behaviorally. The vision is also to optimize client care and to optimize the availability and accessibility of services to families. This is the only practice in the area that pairs mental health care, which is what my part of it, with other types of therapies that parents seek for their kids. And so my purpose is to provide a resource to help kids, teens, and families to move forward so that they can achieve all that God has for them in this life. The need for this type of collaborative practice was not on my radar 18 months ago. I was a stay-at-home mom, raising kids. I knew I always wanted to be into private practice, but that thought was pretty darn scary. I took my son in, I guess he was 1 year old at the time, for a well child check to his pediatrician. And the pediatrician knew I was a licensed professional counselor, and we would often engage in conversation about child abuse, neglect, hot topics like ADHD. And he said, well, if you would just open up a small office and I could refer people to you, and you could do some emotional and behavioral assessments, and he wanted a trusted resource to treat kids with behavioral disorders. And I thought, well, that's nice. I don't have an office. Good idea. But he really did light a fire under me, and I started researching, praying, and listening and exploring some options and talking to knowledgeable friends. Some of them are here today. And I realized several things about the Lubbock area. Parents want a trusted resource when it comes to care for their children. Often parents are referred to several different types of therapists at differing locations to address all of their children's needs. And I also realized that customers and clients appreciate a fresh and clean facility that clearly communicates that we value our work and we value your child. The major problem that I had was while I have the appropriate degrees and licensure to open up a private practice, I have no experience in business, marketing, accounting, not even any coursework in college for any of that. So I'm not unlike any other helping professional or allied health professional who works in a clinic. They typically work for somebody who runs the clinic, and they do their therapy, and that's their expertise. So the thought of beginning a practice was pretty terrifying. But when I walked into the 3,000 square foot space of the Green Oaks Mall, it was gutted, it was rough. I mean, it was the beginning pictures, you see what it was. The potential and the vision became very clear at that point. And so I designed the floor plan, and I designed the Playroom Lubbock. It consists of 15 rooms, therapy rooms, offices, conference room, group therapy room, a kitchen, a waiting room, observation rooms, and a child care room for my own kids. Because I wasn't quite ready to to work full-time, I still have a 2-year-old at home. So I still wanted to have some accessibility to him. So it was like, go big or go home. In fact, when I told my husband that I had this idea of not only starting a private practice where I would just do play therapy, but that I wanted to offer an array of therapy services, he simply and confidently said, I think you should. And he was my ticket out. He was going to be my excuse to drop all my plans, but he supported me. So thank you. Now, about 7 months in, play has officially become my work. I play for a living. As a play therapist, I use play because play is how kids make sense of their world. Our therapy services and all of the different services we provide elements of play to comfort, soothe, teach, encourage, motivate, and propel kids forward. I use play therapy, activity therapy, and family therapy. And play therapy is a form of counseling for kids where they use play as their language and the toys are their words so that they can communicate what's bothering them or to express their world. And I closely work with parents as a part of the process. The Playroom Lubbock also offers yoga for kids, substance abuse and addiction counseling for teens and young adults, and recreational therapy using sports, arts, dance, music to assist kids with disabilities, either cognitive or physical disabilities, in achieving wellness and life goals. I'm also hoping to collaborate with occupational therapists and speech-language pathologists in providing those services. So my practice model encourages the use of private practitioners through either subletting space or contracting their services. And this allows them to have more control over their own schedule, their client load, and it gives them more autonomy and independence. It also allows me to serve kids. I want to be serving kids and families. I didn't intend to be a director and oversee things. So I'm serving kids, and this type of model is also meets my own family's needs. Since we specialize in very different areas but under one roof, we practitioners are accessible to each other, and we are also accessible to families to meet all of their needs, which at times can be very complex. Kaylee Cross is a marriage and family therapist and a licensed chemical dependency counselor, and she does substance abuse and addiction counseling for teens and young adults, as well as teen behavior issues. And Sarah Taylor, who's here, she is a certified recreational therapist, and she works with kids with physical or cognitive disabilities or limitations and uses their interests, such as art, dance, music, sports, or other recreation, to help meet their goals. And then Sarah Parrott offers Yoga Calm, which is a specialized yoga class for kids that focuses on relieving stress, provides self-control, social skills, and self-awareness. So, by presenting here at 1 Million Cups, I'm hoping that you gain a sense of trust for referrals. That would be nice. And I really hope to diminish the stigmas related to mental health care. I'm trying to be present in the social media world, be present in things like this, to tell you that it's okay to seek mental health care. And a child doesn't have to have gone through trauma to seek care. And I'm also hoping to encourage other counselors and allied health professionals that if private practice is in their desire or future, that it is completely possible. And, you know, I pretty much started it as a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids in tow, not really knowing what I was doing, but I asked a lot of questions, read a lot of books, and I'll be attending a business conference, by the way, to my husband, next in May. So anyways, I want to close with my mantra song that has guided and encouraged me to continue with this pursuit and passion. It is a song called Oceans by Hillsong, and part of it says, "You call me out upon the waters, the great unknown where feet may fail. And there I find you in the mystery, in oceans deep, my faith will stand. And we have all been called out, or will be called out upon the waters to a place that is unknown, that we don't know how to stay afloat or don't know how to navigate. And when it comes to our children, we need a guide to help them walk upon the waters to wherever they have been called in this life. We've been created for a purpose, and the Playroom Lubbock is here to help move kids and families forward to prepare them emotionally and physically in realizing their purpose. So I truly appreciate your attention and the spotlight and your support by coming to attend, and I'm happy to answer your questions. Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, what you've done is an amazing example of entrepreneurship. It's fantastic what you've done with your work. I did have a question though. So it seems like you have a pretty solid handle on what you're doing. What are the biggest challenges you face right now?
Well, I need clients. The challenge of the mental health stigma is a big one. Another challenge is I'm about 80% private pay and 20% Medicaid clients. And I chose to be on the Medicaid panel so that I could reach that socioeconomic population. But that tends to be a challenge because parents are used to using their insurance, and they still can use their insurance, they just have to bill it themselves. So that is a little bit of a challenge, and when I bring on other practitioners, that's something that we have to navigate too, about how they're going to set up their practice, how are we going to, how are clients going to pay for these services, and still allow accessibility to lots of different people.
Okay. When you say dealing with the stigma associated with mental health, how do you see that most of the time? Is it in terms of parents acting a certain way about it? Can you go further?
Sure. I think a lot of times parents maybe don't want to admit that there may be an issue, or it may be a mental health concern or a parenting issue. And that's why I work closely with the parents. And also, there is a sense of privacy that parents do want to maintain, because if their friends found out that their child has this or that, or and while I do diagnose mental health disorders, it's not the focus of my practice. I believe it's a great guide to know what kind of treatment is appropriate. And it is a guide if they're looking at medications and I need to refer on to a psychiatrist. But there's just a lot of unknowns, and I think it has a lot to do with educating parents in the community that it's real. Normal, average people can deal with this stuff. Yes. Okay.
Do you plan to engage with the family court system, or talking about referrals?
Yeah.
That involves, testifying in court and all kinds of issues.
That's terrifying.
Is that on your radar? Or are you gonna?
Not yet. I would need to pursue training for that. Now, I would love to be an advocate for children who have been abused or neglected in that area, but I would need more training for that. There are a handful of counselors who are confident in doing that, and if it does look like a messy divorce case, or if it looks like I would potentially be subpoenaed for court, it's probably somebody I would refer on, and I'm upfront with parents about that.
Use the mic, just so we can capture this over.
Sorry, I'm kind of soft-spoken.
First, thank you. I'm a professor. Very few professors attend here. So, one thing is, you said it right, that in any business, when you start something new, you depend on clients. As a young, new entrepreneur, how do you maintain that buffer time how do you keep your business afloat until you reach a level where there's a liquidity in place where you could sustain? So what's the message you give it to some new entrepreneurs? How do they go through the tough period of maintaining the business afloat?
For me personally, it was a ton of prayer, but I know you need something more concrete and substantial. I started booking clients 2 months out. And so I was in preparation of building the business, the construction on the building, and 2 months out, I started booking all my clients. And sure enough, I started with 7 clients that first week that I opened my doors. And I wasn't officially opened, I hadn't had the ribbon cutting or anything. And just from there, it just increased, and I'm up to 20 clients. And I still consider myself part-time. And I am helping Kaylee Cross, who's coming on board as a private practitioner as well. And so we're just, what I found out is it takes 4 to 6 weeks for word to really get around. And I've approached all of the pediatricians, all the school districts, several daycare centers, and Kaylee has her own list of people that would be interested in substance and addiction care. And so it just took a lot of time for me to get my name out and hit those people that would be a great referral source for me. And most of my referrals come from pediatricians, youth pastors, and I also subscribe to Psychology Today, which is a database of mental health professionals, which is worth my money because until my website really gets enough traffic to pop up first on your Google search, which I'm learning all about that. Psychology Today will pop up and you can scroll through and see profiles for all the counselors in the area. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it's basically planning in advance.
Yes, and giving her some time.
So, you might explain, she went through a lot of literally going door to door to the pediatricians with gift bags and emails and all sorts of stuff way before, like she said, 2 months prior. She was spending a lot of time hitting the pediatricians in these places.
And Kelly's always done a good job, I think. Sorry, I interrupted, thank you, but.
This is my posse right
Yeah. We love Kelly, but she has a passion for this. You can hear her speak. I mean, she loves kids, she loves what she's doing, so it's easily translated. And too many times as businesses, we think we can go to the web or we can send out an email or, by the way, you're famous, you're on Facebook because I sent your picture out. But we rely on that, but many times it is going out and putting a face with your business, and that's Playroom Lubbock. And they remember. I mean, it's great, and you're diligent. I applaud you for that. It's not easy to start a business, and you've done it.
Thank you.
Explain your business model again. So you went out, leased a space, and you are the director and plan to have your own. Explain your business model, if you would. You leased a space, you became the director, owner, and then you're looking for people that are basically like independent contractors to come in and rent your space and still kind of have their private practice underneath that.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. You got it.
Did you have or do you have any grants or outside funding, or is it totally private?
How do I answer that?
You have a small bit of private funding.
Small amount of private funding. I will say this, I'm not in a large amount of debt at all. It was it's a very forgiving and risk-free loan. And so that is something that I considered was, I could go out and get a loan and hire these people and just go real big. And after talking with several people, and I am a Dave Ramsey fan, I wanted to keep it simple and small, and it's working.
I've been in healthcare and wellness for a long time. I'm doing something else now, but I've worked for a lot of different people who use allied health professionals and counselors. And have you thought about going ahead and starting the credentialing process to take insurance? Because I think it's complex, but it seems to have made these businesses thrive. And also, with the current healthcare situation everybody's facing, which is daunting, do you think your therapies would even be covered if people did have, the insurance and you could take their Blue Cross plan or whatever?
Right. It's not my desire to be on insurance panels. There are several reasons. One, You do have to provide a diagnosis for every claim that you file, and I don't believe that's always appropriate. And diagnoses become a part of a child's permanent record. Also, insurance companies do dictate amount of sessions that they will pay for, and so I would like to be the expert in that area. Parents do have the ability to file their own insurance, and they have been successful. Most insurance companies will cover mental health care. So that really hasn't been an issue, and since I've maintained about 80% of my clients in private pay, and they're still calling, I feel like if this is kind of where I have to be a salesman, but a very genuine salesman, in explaining the value of the play therapy or whatever therapy service we're providing, the value of that to their child. I mean, that's really kind of a priceless value. And the care that I maintain with the parents and the communication that I keep with them, I feel like they trust that what they're paying for is valuable and worth it.
Thank you for sharing your story. Enjoyed hearing what you're working on. Quick question, what is your target age group of children? And then this may be difficult to answer, but how long does a kid need to participate in order to reduce stress levels? And I recognize that can vary depending on the levels of stress that the kids experience.
I accept kids for play therapy on my side of things for counseling, play therapy is 3 to 8 years old, and then I do activity therapy and talk therapy for tweens. That's parents like 9 to 12 years old, and then I also do adolescent counseling, which is 13 to 17. And then Kaylee does adolescent counseling, and then I also work with the families. And then you asked about maybe how long that it would take.
To actually reduce stress levels.
Right.
And how do you measure that?
Yeah. Typically a client is in play therapy for 9 to 30 sessions. I know that's a big range, but it does depend on the situation and the severity of things. There are stages of play therapy that help guide my decision making, and between 3 and 6 sessions, between 0 and 6 sessions, the child is really building a therapeutic relationship with me, getting comfortable with the play therapy. And then between 7 and 10 sessions is a negative reaction phase, and sometimes kids tend to get worse before they get better. That means that that doesn't mean that play therapy isn't working. It just means that they are learning some new things about themselves that are colliding with their old behaviors, and they're having trouble integrating the new ways of behaving with their old ways. And so they resort to back what's comfortable, even though it's not serving them well. And then once we get over that little hump, it's the growing phase, and that can be between 10 and 20 sessions where we're really starting to see symptoms decline. And that's one way to measure progress, is symptoms at home or at school are getting fewer and far between. And I tell parents that kids are on a roller coaster literally until about age 25. But what we're trying to do is to make those valleys a little less severe. We're not trying to create a perfect child. And so once we know that they're at a point where we can stop therapy, is when we feel comfortable that more times than not they will be able to manage themselves emotionally and behaviorally. So does that help answer your question?
Yep. All right, these will be our last 3 questions.
This is fun. I want to do more.
So being in Lubbock, where all the students are, and the psychology program at Tech, do you see yourself expanding to include maybe internships or working alongside Texas Tech to have training?
Yes, and I didn't mention this. I have observation rooms built in, and play therapy is typically just a confidential session between the child and the therapist. Parents don't sit in on those. But the reason why I have observation rooms is, one, I can do some parent training using that, but I want to also train other counselors. And so there are very few direct contact or face-to-face trainings for play therapists in this area. And so I really want to focus in on that. And I have talked to some people at Texas Tech through their health sciences and psychology department. So not about that, but just making connections and just, hey, I'm here, you know. But yeah, I would love to teach students. I still want to work with kids, but I would love to teach students or counseling interns.
Kelly, this is great. Congratulations again. It's also nice to know that you have some good backers helping you, so I know that takes a load off your mind. Back to your business model again, the 80-20 and bringing on new practitioners. How did you come up with that, and what is your long-term sustainability opportunity with that model?
I really don't have a good answer for that. Really, I couldn't, starting out, I can't be picky about who is able to pay private pay and who's able to pay through Medicaid. I'm really just kind of accepting whoever calls if I feel like I'm the best fit for their needs. Now, I will have to set some more limits as far as financially if I need to be more strict on the 80-20 as far as pay versus insurance, private pay versus insurance. What was the second part of your question?
Well, and your practitioners that you bring on, such as Kelly that you, or I'm sorry, Katie that you brought on, how does that fit in with that model as well? Do they have to fit into your, they're on their own in that perspective?
No, they're on their own. I was really looking for a good fit for the Playroom Lubbock. And the way she sets her fees is her business, or what panel she's on is her business. My main thing is use your gifts. She needs to use her gifts that I believe God's given her, and she needs to be ethical. And so and take care of her clients. So that's really my focus. In the helping profession, we're trying to work ourselves out of jobs. So, I tend to think more about the humans that I'm working with. And that could be a detriment, business model-wise, because I'm more invested in the client care.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, so you mentioned trying to get your website more visible. Have you done any search engine optimization?
I tried. Do you have some tips for that?
I've done some of it, and I also know people who are really good at it.
Okay. You can tell me who you know.
I worked in India for over a year, and one of the guys I worked with did it professionally.
Yeah, okay. I just know it's, actually Anthony Presley has told me a few little tricks. He's one of the organizers here. But, I'm trying the blog thing, and I really like to blog on my website and drive traffic that way. And then I do have an email newsletter that I get out that drives traffic back to my website. My knowledge is very limited, so, but I feel like I'm probably at least on the second page of the Google search. I mean, try it and see how I'm doing. I am.
You're pretty high up on the second page.
I'm doing good.
One thing that I might suggest is having the people you work with, the other counselors, have their own personal websites. And a really simple trick is to have those people have their own websites and then cross-link to all of each other. Because one thing that raises your rankings and search results is how much it's referenced on other domains.
Okay, that's beautiful advice.
So that's one big
Sarah?
thing.
Okay. We'll work on that.
All right, thanks for the tips. Let's continue with that kind of conversation after this session, but now for the big question. What can we as a community do for you, Kelly?
You can tell people about it. And I mean, helpful things like that, I do appreciate that. So if you have any insight with how you run your business or how you've done things, I do appreciate that. But yeah, I just really would love for you to actually you can go to my website and just click anywhere and like make a comment or share it with somebody. That would help too.
All right. Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, thank
Great.
you for having me.